to the RationalInvestor.com's Daily Brief. The answer to your question is learn the goddamn process, trade your trading plans, don't take too much risk on any one trade, and just let yourself get rich.
All right, hello everybody. Welcome back. I am back in Thailand after a Japan adventure, and we're back to the regularly scheduled programming here. I'm gonna refresh a bunch of this stuff. Crypto, fear, and greed. Hope you guys are doing well. Hopefully there's a few more viewers this time. I tried to make it a little bit better with the U.S. time zone, plus earlier for Asia. And also I set up the stream to start basically like give you warning that it was going to be live, and I created the thumbnail beforehand, so that way I don't have to mess with making the thumbnail. That's always the part that takes me the longest. Yeah, so hopefully we get a few people. So far it seems like nobody is here, but maybe we'll get a few people soon. Maybe this doesn't work better, maybe it's worse. You can see that the Fed account is finally starting to be drawn down. We've got 100 million down already, but this is not where I think the main money is coming from. You can see I posted about liquidity in my room, and we can go here to the daily chart. Bitcoin looks like it's trying to roll over a bit here. Eventual target down here, 83K area. Let me add on our global liquidity. Let's put this on a scale on the right. Hello, everybody. Anybody out there? If anybody's out there watching, hello. All right, new right scale. And we'll adjust the liquidity. Keep in mind this liquidity is delayed by about 88 days. That's what I have it set for. Yeah, 88. It can vary between 60 and 90. Changes all the time. Yeah, but assuming we are basically lined up, this should be where we are, and then we'll get our big spike, and then a little bit of a pullback, and then finally next year in February area, we should theoretically start taking off and moving higher based on the current liquidity printing that's happening right now. Like, it's not going to. It takes a while to trickle through. Like, they're printing and injecting a ton of liquidity into the market right now, and people are seeing that, but it takes 2 months for that liquidity to trickle into the market. So I would be careful getting overly bullish on that liquidity just yet. I'm gonna just switch my computer to full speed mode. There we go. That should make things smoother. Okay, yeah, faster. It was lagging a bit. And what I want to show you guys is, where is it? Well, we are still at extreme fear for crypto, so decent buying area. I think it's a fine area to buy spot. I'm just looking for that lower target from like a leverage standpoint to get into that low 83K area as an entry before kind of takeoff. Maybe we even go down to 82. This zone down here is my area. I'm looking for to get into that long-term long and ride it up higher, at least into this like 110, 112K area, and then reevaluate. Lucy, you got a lot of explaining to do. Okay. Hello. Yeah, there. The computer is running fast now. The fans are on high. Amazing the difference that happens when you get the computer to start using its exhaust system. Okay. I wanted to talk about, where is it? I wanted to show you the liquidity injections. I can't really, other than on this Bitcoin chart here. It's really just here. But if you can ask AI, like I talked to Gemini about all of this, and also Grok, and I had them both do deep research. And basically right now, China, the US, and Europe are injecting liquidity into the system, while Japan is not. And the thing is that people are talking about and concerned about is the Japanese yen. They're concerned that the yen carry trade is going to unwind and cause a essentially a dump in the short term. And you can see how if we line up, right? So if we get rid of this and we get rid of this. By the way, we have this long-term trend line here. And we have this also right here. Actually, it should be like that. Yeah, just like that. If we go here, you can see it broke down. Go out to a weekly chart. Maybe it's more clear on a weekly chart. Eventual target was 170, but if the Japanese bank raises interest rates and they're not doing any quantitative easing, that could reverse the yen and cause an unwind of the carry trade, which would create a rollover in the stock market. And we are seeing a significant amount of dark pool prints. And I posted it in the member lounge. Let me see if I can show it here. Yeah, so yesterday, tons of selling. Apparently, this was one of the biggest sells ever. Also here on VOO, Vanguard, apparently massive sells going on here. This could be capital rotation and something else, but I've personally never seen anything this big. So I'm a little bit concerned and cautious, and it lines up with a lot of the analysis here with we've got a major divergence on the daily chart and on a weekly also like an M double top forming. I'm not saying 100% this is the top, but I am very cautious. MACD is negative. It would make sense for the market to dump down to like 6,500 area at least before, you know, bouncing higher, but we could have like a very big crash. Okay, it could head all the way down, and then and we get that rollover, and then in February we then bounce and have that mega bounce from all the liquidity that's currently being printed. So I'm extremely cautious right now because I'm concerned that we could roll over here. Now you can see we're holding this support level at 6,800 area. Here, yeah. If we go to a bit lower time frame, you can see on a 4 hour, they're trying to, on the lower time frame, they're trying to turn it around, and it is still kind of ranging in this area, but weekly chart does not look good. The market can stay like this for a while, right? We can be stuck in this zone, but I'd rather be cautious and protect. Like I don't know about anybody else, but I had massive gains this past year. Like this move from March all the way up into November, December now. This was very profitable for me, so I'm holding. I am holding, and or I'm exiting a lot of my positions and taking profits, and I will consider. I'm just going to stay in cash mostly. I'll consider longs if we get that rollover. I just think the upside is kind of limited. I don't see a massive explosion higher here. The liquidity that's being printed now is not going to filter into the market until February, as I said. That's kind of it. I don't really. I could go into detail on a bunch of names. We can talk about it. Let me see. So that's my viewpoint on the S&P. Can look at things like Tesla, right? Exploded higher, and then it had the negative news that came out. So Tesla had its breakout, and my eventual target is 577. We're hitting that. We hit that 3.59 area. We might get a bit of a pullback here. Right, so here was your breakout, and then push higher. We did have rejection here, and I originally sold my Tesla on this TD9 that came in, and then I went on my vacation in Japan, and unfortunately I forgot to buy back, so I'm only at about half size in Tesla. Tesla's one of the few longs I still have, but it's at a much smaller size. If I was at my full size, this would have been crazy profits. So Tesla, nice bullish breakout. Could get a little bit of a pullback here, but right now it it looks very bullish. You can see with the news coming out of California banning, something about banning Teslas. They're trying to contain this breakout and push it back down. So majority of the move has already happened. Hopefully you longed from down here, or originally from down here when I was talking about getting in major longs for Tesla. I mean, this has been quite a nice run. If you got in around 240, it's basically doubled and you're up 100% now. It doesn't hurt to take some profits, but eventual target is 577 at the top of this trend here. So if you are in this long term, I think you can just keep holding and look for that 570 target. Looks good at the current pace. It should reach it at. Let's see if we continue at this kind of slope mid-January. If the rest of the market rolls over, I'll be surprised if this is hit by mid-January. But let's see. For now, like I said, I'm in like a half size long. I took a lot of profits on the TD9 print here. So if we get a pullback, I will add to the longs again. I'd love to see a pullback down to like test 440 area before a push higher. But if you're in longs, I wouldn't, like stock, for example, if you're in spot, I wouldn't take profits here. I would just hold, because this 580 area seems almost inevitable at this point. Okay, that's Tesla. I mean, we got to look at the big names, right? Nvidia has just kind of been sitting up here oscillating ever since that TD8 and 9 on a weekly print, a weekly chart came in. You can see the weekly's deeply negative, and it's just basically sitting up here, starting to get a little bit of divergence, at least with MACD. RSI not so much. So it's just been doing nothing since July, basically consolidating. They can't, this can't roll over. They can't let this roll over because the rest of the market will crash. You can see how we hit my 4.669. We're just sitting there. If it does ever break out, the next target is 264. So we will, you know, just if you want to get long and you're thinking about that, you can wait for the breakout. But I would be cautious simply because of what I brought up before about the dark pools and the S&P. This just doesn't look amazing. Also, Nvidia, the GEX, you know, last show I talked about GEX and Gamma. Gamma is pointing negative, so it looks like CTAs are mostly wanting to sell rather than buy right now, and that also puts pressure on everything. Can you guys see the stream okay? It is giving me some error. It says like YouTube is not receiving enough video to maintain smooth streaming. I'm not sure if that's an issue or not. Okay, so that's on the S&P. That's Nvidia. Let's look at MSTR. There's been a lot of discussions about MSTR and Bitcoin. MSTR printed a TD9. Okay, that's usually a pretty good sign of some type of bottom or top coming in. I mean, you can see here that like when a TD7 on the weekly came in, we rallied after that. When a TD9 on the weekly came in, the rally basically stopped. We did have a TD9 that came in here, and you had a brief push higher, which almost a 50. I know it doesn't look like much on the chart, but if you had bought here, you got a 16% push higher off that bounce, even if you didn't catch the bottom. You bought like 300, could sold at 370. Here, you know, we have another TD9, and we could put in a nice bounce. I mean, this could end up being like 100% bounce. We haven't had any clear reversal on the weekly chart, but if you look lower, right? So this would be the line that basically applies to the weekly, and you can see how you'd kind of be late if you followed that. If we look at the daily one here, this was your initial bounce. We've got a retest and potential future bounce. So I've actually purchased a bunch of MSTR here. I bought long dated calls in the money. Let me tell you exactly what I bought on MSTR. I bought February 20th 175 calls. So right here, they're a little bit out of the money at this point, but you could, if you want to be safer, you could do like 160 calls for even further out. You could do to March or something like that. I might be early. I could still add to this position, but I like where MSTR is. I like all the negative news that's coming out about MSTR. I think that's great, and it's a good buying area. Also, if you look at this range, right, we're in my buying zone. 0.786 to 886 is the buy zone. There's a potential W forming here. We're basically making the second leg of the W. So ideally, I'd want to see, you know, this do that, and that kind of lines up with the Bitcoin analysis. I want to see a flush like right below these lows, maybe to 151. Same with Bitcoin, where we do a quick flush down to like 82, 83, and then we get our move up, which aligns well with the, you know, bottom end of this uptrend channel, plus entry zone in multiple areas. I mean, it lines up with hitting liquidity down here and also right down here. This is a major support area, and then we can create that long-term W before blast off. So in Stockland, I'm looking at MSTR, and I like what I'm seeing here, and I've put on a couple call positions, trying to be basically in the money, not too far out of the money. I think it's an easier way to leverage rather than, you know, buying something far out of the money with crazy decline. If you want to play ETH, there's ETHA, which I'm looking at. ETHA, I bought 22 $2 calls at 22. So I bought calls at 22, basically right here in the money, for February expiration, also expecting, you know, some type of bounce here. Sorry, something like this. You know, and then we move higher. So basically right here. And I can add if we go a bit lower. I hope we do, and then I can buy in. So that's another position I'm in. A lot of stuff I reduced, as I said, but those are two that I'm big on. Expecting eventually a crypto rally. Lululemon finally took off. I talked about it a lot. I own a bunch of shares, only shares in Lululemon, because I didn't know how long this was going to sit down here. Eventual target is 261. It's already, you know, kind of skyrocketed higher. If I'm a little bit more conservative with our target here, yeah, we can say that we basically hit our 2.618, took out this liquidity right here. It might take some time before hitting this final zone, but that's my target, 240. It wouldn't hurt to take some profits here, honestly, at 200. I'm up quite a bit from my original buys. So that's another one. You can't really buy now. I don't think it's in a great area. One that is in a decent area, open, is open. It's consolidating right now before a potential next leg up. So if this is your leg one, then your second leg looks, assuming this $5 was the low, your next leg is at $100. So I really like this stock. I like how it looks on a weekly chart. I think it could skyrocket. So I'm quite heavy in open. It's one of the few heavy positions I still have. I think it could really take off. So I have May 26 $10 calls, May 2026 $10 calls, and then I also have just stock. That's really all I have with it right now. I might consider buying some 2027 calls in the money, just to kind of leverage play this a bit more, because this is a major potential target. And you could see it was at like 33 before. It could go all the way to that $100. If we do it, like, this is a log scale, so that explains the huge discrepancy. If we tame this, right, and take it off a log scale, and we use a regular scale, you only get to $15. Keep that in mind. But I like the log scale for this one, and I think that has a really good potential to play out. You could also say, like, this is your long-term W area, and then that points to essentially $20. So if you want to be conservative, you could say, oh, it's only going to go to 15, between 15 and 20, and you could take profits there. And then then kind of leave some runners for that higher time frame $100 target. So I do really like open. You can even see here if you use this area right here, target points to around 15. So I think 15 is a good like initial target. I'm actually going to set an alert like 1475. Put like a horizontal ray there to show like this is an area to kind of consider selling, right, like that. And then put one up here at around like, we'll say $90 instead of 100. Just get out early, and I'll save this. So I like those two. Why is it not showing on the lower time frame? I want this to be visible. Show this on all the intervals. So open, really like. Could take some time. So if you get options, or you either just buy the stock or get options, but make sure it's at least, I would say at least 8 months to a year time, give yourself. And buy in the money so you don't have to worry about the whole DK thing. Oracle, I know a lot of people are talking about Oracle, and there's a lot of negativity out there related to it. I think this chart looks good. Like, clear breakdown, retest. I would be a buyer here. And you just do something like this. And then your target is back here at 360. I think it looks great. So I also like Oracle here. We filled the gap, basically filled the gap right here at 180. On a weekly chart, we hit a TD9 on the weekly. So you've got a TD9 plus a lot of negative news and a perfect reversal setup here. I really like it. I have some stock in that also. And I also bought January 30th, 195 calls. Now the issue is if the whole market rolls over, these are not going to be, they're not going to do well. So just keep that in mind. My size is not extreme on these. I don't have like massive size. It's a small part of my account. I reduced a lot. I reduced a lot of positions, especially in stocks. Yeah, log scale is the money shot. Exactly. If you guys are out there, feel free to ask questions. I'm just kind of going through what I've been watching, what I'm looking at. BLNK is something I talked about that sold off a crazy amount. Absolutely insane. I admit that I bought some down here at like 120, and it was just stock. So now I'm down quite a bit. I didn't have a stop loss, but we're basically at the super lows now. Like, this sold off very fast. And you can see we have now a TD8 on the weekly. I don't know anything fundamentally about this, so I can't, maybe look into that. But I know chart-wise, this is basically at a bottom. Like, this was a massive sell-off. You've got a TD8 on the weekly. I like it from a long perspective. This was a fake out right here, right? So you can see the spike. This was the area I bought, and we got that spike up and then a fake out. I should have stopped out, but since it was just stock positions, I didn't mind just holding. I've added down here to it. Yeah, so it's fine to add to this, I think. You should eventually get a bounce. I mean, of course, the whole thing dumps. You're gonna move even lower. So don't go crazy with this, but I do like it as a potential position. All right, TD8 on a weekly. You've got a daily chart TD8 as well. Nice divergence on MACD. RSI does not look great. I don't know about the fundamentals, but this is where you long something like this. This is the area. Could potentially get a nice spike. So I'm still holding my longs on this. No guarantees on this one. I think it's a bit of a risky long, but something to consider. What else I got? UNH, right? I'm still holding UNH. Let's take a look. Let's take a look at United Healthcare. How does Warren Buffett's name look? So daily breakout, did not get the push higher I wanted. This is because the rest of the market is kind of fluctuating. You can see I drew our ABCD target 485, but it's really not performing. We are still holding on this uptrend, but if this starts to break down, I will close part of this position because I do have, this is another one that I'm still holding on to quite a bit of. So, you know, a little bit concerning here. I wouldn't be a buyer, but I am updating that I have position in UNH, and since this uptrend is still holding on RSI, I'm basically still holding the stock. But if we start breaking down below 318, I'm going to exit because that means it's a failed breakout, and we could go down to fill this gap at 270. So that's my plan with UNH. But for now, I'm holding. I only have stock. I don't have any options on it, so I don't mind the volatility or the time decay because I don't have any options, so I don't care about that stuff. Do I have anything else? So something else I want to note is if we look at TLT breakout has failed to materialize, right? There was a lot of discussion about TLT and pushing higher because the Fed was lowering rates. It hasn't happened yet. However, you do have a TD7 on the daily, and I could see this being a good area to start to consider some longs. So if you think the Fed's going to keep lowering rates and you think it will push TLT higher, then you could consider, you know, some longs on TLT. You can see back in 2020 it went all the way up to 170. We're just sitting down in this low area, burning any kind of options premium. So something to consider, considering that, especially because of that TD7 on this daily chart looks like it's trying to put in some kind of reversal. I might look at a few positions in TLT. Could work as a long shot play. I know Brian took longs on it a long time ago and gave himself a lot of time. But I think you can actually get that 120, 130. I think it's the same price as around what he bought it for. You can get it for, let me check, I'm checking the contract. I think you can get it around 10 cents now or something like that. Maybe even much less. June contract. I think you can get it maybe even less. I'm trying to find the price. I think you can get it for around like 4 or 5 cents. Actually, it's like 50% less than the price back in the summer. So you can get it very, very, very cheap now. I wouldn't, I think going that far out is maybe not a great idea. It could take a while. Maybe better to just go to like 96 or 100 if you're interested in some kind of spread with that. I think it's risky to do anything else. Or you can just buy in the money calls. I think in the money calls could also work. Like it's a good way to leverage. You just buy like 85 or 80 calls and it's essentially a leveraged long. So I think that can also work. All right. You guys don't care about stocks that much. Let's get to crypto. Let's talk about Bitcoin. Bitcoin. We care about Bitcoin only. All right. So daily chart broken down. Weekly chart is bottoming, right? We had a TD7 that printed here. I don't know why we don't have this TD8. It should be a TD8 that comes in here, but right now we have a TD7. Looks like price is trying to bottom on a weekly chart. Daily chart, we definitely bottomed and are trying to reverse, but then we reversed again. So, you know, we could have broken out higher here. It was a real possibility. It didn't happen. I'm going to get rid of this global liquidity line there. Okay. Also get rid of that. Okay. So right now, you have a little bit of a negative leaning price action on a 4-hour chart, right? That's leaning to the downside ever so slightly, not making this easy. It did kind of break out, but it looks like it could be a fake out. If you look at this 1-hour chart, right? Hasn't rolled over yet, but it's trying to. So, you know, one of two things can happen here. We can roll over and head down to this 82, or we just head straight up. Obviously, I prefer we head lower. I want to be filled down here. The question is that going to happen, or do we just head straight up from here? I think it really depends on the S&P. If the S&P rolls over, and that's why I spend so much time talking about it, Bitcoin will definitely reach that low, but the S&P needs to roll over here. And I'm not sure if it will. It looks like it's trying to reverse right here. So on this 4 hour, this looks like a reversal. And this is a major support area. So kind of in a, what you could do, honestly, is you could take longs here and just set your stop at the lows. And in case we do break down, then you look for that next long down here at 78.6, 88.6 area. Same with Bitcoin. So if the S&P rolls over, then Bitcoin will head down to that 78.6, 83,000 area. We can look at liquidation levels. I don't really believe in it, but it doesn't hurt to look sometimes. Yeah, so Bitcoin has liquidations at 88,500. Really only to the upside, nothing to the downside. I can keep going out a little bit. I'll look at that a lot to the upside. Yeah, it seems like almost nothing on the downside. So maybe we don't get that pullback. Maybe it just moves higher and I get left behind. Pump to break even on alts. I don't want to go any further than a month. I don't think it's that useful. So we do have a bunch of stuff down at 70K, but I don't see it being hit. Yeah, so most likely we pump at least the 88,500 in the next 24 hours. And then it really depends on what the rest of the market does. I think if you get a push higher with stocks, then Bitcoin will push higher. If you get a dump with stocks, then Bitcoin should pull back to this 83 area. We should get that last move lower, which is like I showed here, that ABCD, right? There's that. But it looks like there's liquidity right up here at 88,500 that it might want to take out first. Maybe something like this. And then like that. And then you get your pump higher. Something like that. But again, it really depends on what happens Friday morning, Thursday night with Japan. Like depending on what Japan does. Like if they raise rates again and there's no quantitative easing, this could push the yen. It looks lower on the chart, but it would push the yen up, which would make this go down, right? And that could cause further unwinding of the yen carry trade, which would cause everything to kind of sell off. So potential scenario to be aware of. I think this is the time to be cautious. I know people like clear, like it's going to go in this direction. This is going to happen for sure. But in this situation, I don't. Unfortunately, it's not clear. It's really not. And so when that happens, you just lower your risk, and you take less positions, and that's what I'm doing right now. And it's also why I didn't really have any calls. I mean, I was in Japan, so I wasn't watching the markets as closely. I was enjoying some Japanese food plus snowboarding and onsening and all that stuff. A little bit of relaxation, getting rid of all this cortisol built up from watching the market all the time. So yeah, I think looking at the chart, it looks like Bitcoin could quickly pump and take out the liquidity up here in the short term. We could even go a little bit lower, right? Oh, it does look like it wants to, we took out the lows. Now we go up here and take out the highs, 88,500 area. And then we head down and we take out the lows again. And if we hit 88.5, right? So that's actually your down. Then your downside is 84, which isn't that different from the 85 level before you could have gotten long off of. But that's something I could see happening with Bitcoin, especially with, like I said, as what the S&P looks like. But it does look like they're trying to reverse it a little bit here. Okay, so that's really all I have. I guess to sum it up, I am very cautious about markets right now. Direction is unclear. Liquidity is being pumped in. So by February, we should get a big rally. The question just is, do we dump before that rally? Hence the name of this episode, which is a bust then boom. So bust is, head lower down to here, and then come January, February, we get that boom. It doesn't make sense to me from a tax purpose. Like you'd think, I guess well, actually, if you think about it, right? So maybe people are holding on to a bunch of unrealized gains, and if the government, if we assume that the government controls the market, right? Like let's go with a funny little concept. Let's assume the government controls the market and the government uses the market to get massive amounts of tax money. And let's next assume that, okay, so this is, where's 2025? Yeah, so here's the beginning of 2025, market dumps, lots of buys here, lots of buys here, market ramps up to all-time highs, people are sitting on massive amounts of profit right now. Okay, how do you get people to pay a lot of tax? Well, you get them to sell somewhere before the end of the year, right? They sell, the market dumps, and they have to sell because they're afraid that it'll go lower. So they sell and they lock in the gains from here, and then they have to pay tax on those gains. So then the government tax money that they can collect goes way up, and then the government will look better. That's what Trump cares about. He cares about the numbers. Keep saying like, okay, we need to balance trade, we need to do this, we need to do that. If they can collect a lot of tax from the market, which is, I think it is one of the biggest and easiest ways for the government to collect tax money, this might be a strategy to maximize that tax revenue. So it's something I could see happening to force that selling. Before then, in the new year, it recovers, and then we repeat the process and pump to all-time highs again. And then you just, the rest of 2026 is just full-on pump until the end of 2026 when they dump it a bit again to again trigger that tax loss and infinity kind of money. It's almost an infinity money glitch for the government where they just keep printing, dumping, and they do that to collect as much tax money as possible to then fund all the nonsense. That's kind of like a little tinfoil hat theory. I don't know if it's true. I wouldn't trade exclusively off of it, but it is part of the reason I'm semi-cautious going into the end of the year. And then once the new year starts, I could see us just, taking off. Okay, hopefully that was helpful. Thank you guys for watching. We will do another show Friday morning my time, Thursday evening for you guys. So kind of, it's only in, 48 hours from now. So we'll do another show in basically 48 hours just to make up for no show last week while I was in Japan. Yeah. All right. So be safe out there, and let's see. We might actually delay the show until after the Japanese bank announcement. I've got to check the. Let's wait. While we're live, let's go check the timing of that. Let's go to Forex Factory. If we go here. Okay, so Friday, BOJ policy rate, tentative. They don't even have a time. So I might delay the show until like 11 a.m. my time, which would be 11 p.m. for anyone in the U.S. and the East Coast. I know it's a bit late, but I want to make sure that this comes out before we do the show, because that's going to provide that's going to determine the direction of the market. I think this is the biggest thing, right? There is some stuff with the ECB coming out here. You can see all this news coming out on Thursday, a lot of monetary policy stuff. So a lot's happening the next 2 days. So this plus BOJ, once that comes out, I think the next show is good to go, and it's going to provide some more clear direction. All right, hope you guys have a great rest of the week.